Why would you want to know what it costs? What's it to you? Think of how strange that is. Imagine going to a restaurant, because some of us did before dinner, and order a nice bottle of wine and say, I don't care what it costs. Look, Blue Shield or Medicare is sorted out. The system would go haywire. We don't have real free markets in healthcare, which is why the costs keep going up and up. We don't get the kind of productivity we normally get in every other part of the economy. Now, can you get real free enterprise in healthcare and still have good safety nets? Yes. You see little pockets of it. For example, LASIK surgery for the eyes, so you don't have to wear these things, maybe. Millions of people have done it. LASIK surgery in the eyes today is better than it was 10 years ago, and in real terms costs less than it did 10 years ago. Why? Because you, the consumer, write the check. Therefore, providers have every incentive to make it more affordable to you, more attractive to you. Another example. Cosmetic surgery. None of you need it, but the last, called pandering. Tried it in politics, didn't work, that's why I'm here tonight. But in the last 15 years, cosmetic surgery has grown sixfold in the United States. Major technological advances. Yet, you haven't had the kind of inflation there that you have in the rest of healthcare. Why? Because unless it's a result of disease or accident, providers know you're the ultimate payer, not a third party. So if you want a procedure done, what do? You scope it out like you do anything else. You have friends that keep their mouth shut. Maybe you ask them for advice. And so you haven't had the kind of inflation there. So why can't we get that in the rest of healthcare? The answer is we can. And get more sensible safety nets instead of going, if you cut your finger to the emergency room, where they treat everything from common colds to real disasters. Not a very efficient way of doing things. We do it in food. Food is more basic than healthcare. No food, no nothing. But if people have problems getting food, we don't have the government take over the farms. If we did, we'd have no more obesity. We'd all be starving. They tried coming from farms in China and Russia years ago. It was a horrific disaster. So we let the farmers grow the food, companies process the food, truckers and others deliver the food, grocery stores, restaurants, supermarkets, side stands on the roadway sell the food. People have problems getting food. We have everything from food stands to food banks to deal with it. Why more can we do the same thing in healthcare? Allow free enterprise, allow more entrepreneurs of the Steve Jobs variety, make healthcare more plentiful, more affordable, have sensible safety nets so nobody goes without. You do it in food, you can do it in healthcare. So this election then gets down to this. And it sounds very basic, and it is. It's big government versus free people and free markets. Do we want a government-dominated economy like we have in Western Europe? Or we want traditionally what we had in this country, a fairly open economy, where entrepreneurs from the most unlikely backgrounds can do amazing things. Let me just bore you with another set of numbers. 3.3, 1.8, 3.3. From the end of World War II, the early 1970s, the average real growth rate in this country was 3.3% a year. Very impressive performance. Then in the 70s, it went down to 1.8. And probably that was an exaggeration. That was an inflationary decade, massive inflation, Fed printing a lot of money, huge taxes. America was in malaise. Forgotten by the folk memory. It was a horrific decade. When Reagan comes in the early 80s, brings in massive tax cuts, deregulation, stop crashing the dollar, we go back to 3.3. Europe, after the 70s, had 2% growth rates. In the 80s and 90s, in the last decade, stuck at 1.8 to 2%. So here we have the largest economy in the world, and we're growing faster than the developed economies of Western Europe, which are small, and therefore should have more room to grow. So, those headwinds count. environment so we can move ahead or have a difficult time moving ahead. Let me just say a few words about free markets. Free markets are moral. Contrary to the Hollywood caricature and the political caricature, which always portrays free markets as greedy, avaricious, no rules of law, anarchy, rich getting richer. In a true free market, you only succeed if you provide something that somebody else wants. Markets are about meeting the needs and wants of others. And sometimes people don't know they need something until an entrepreneur offers it. Steve Jobs was once asked, "Do you do marketing surveys?" He said no, because people don't know what they want until we show them. This is what he did with iPods, iPads, and everything else. Needs and wants of others. So even if you're that Hollywood caricature, even if you lust for money, and either you're fat, jolly, taking pleasure in the misery of others, or you're skinny and bony, same thing, taking pleasure in the misery of others, like Scrooge, you don't get the money unless you provide something that somebody else wants. And that's what makes markets work. It is about transactions. If you don't satisfy the other party, you don't get to do repeat business. So it forces you, without you knowing it, to pay attention to other people. It increases humanity, not decreases it. It brings about ever more complex circles of cooperation we don't even realize. Restaurant, you want to open a restaurant. You assume farmers grow the food. You assume companies process the food. It will be delivered when you want it. You'll have electricity. You'll have running water. People will make your stoves and your refrigerators and your furniture. All of these things, thousands and thousands of materials, millions of people cooperating together and no one's in charge. That's what makes it work. It is spontaneous. And as Smith talked about it, spontaneous. It increases trust and reduces barriers. And we take it for granted in this country. You start a business, you want to get the best people possible, you want to succeed, you want good people with you. That's a fairly recent phenomenon. In most societies, you wouldn't trust anyone beyond your immediate family, or immediate village, or ethnic group. Commerce breaks down those barriers. Doesn't mean you love your neighbor, but you want to do business, so you try to figure out something the neighbor wants to buy.